Hey everyone, Rick Gualtieri here again. I haven't done one of these chapter readings since before the holiday. That kind of fell off my radar a little bit. Just been incredibly busy editing and putting the final touches on Strange Days Bill of the Dead 1, which is out by the way. But I wanted to get back into it. As I said a while back, my goal was to have one of these, preferably for like each of my books, which I think is awesome. So I wanted to get back into it. So you might be asking yourself, what's with the hood? Is it that cold in your office? And the answer is no, but I figured I'd give a reading from Bigfoot Hunters today, which is a horror novel. It's a little bit different than some of my normal comedic fare. And I figured, what's scarier than wearing a hood? Isn't that like, what you normally do when like you put a cloak on and try to look scary? And okay, I probably just look like I'm running out to the 7-Eleven to grab like a Slurpee or something. So maybe we'll ditch that. But anyway, it seemed like a good day here. As you can see hopefully from the lighting or lack thereof, it's a bit of a dreary day here. So I figured, what better than to give us a little taste of horror? This is Bigfoot Hunters. It's book one in my Tales of the Crypto Hunter trilogy. There's two books out for it right now. The sequel is Devil Hunters, which I've already done a sample chapter of. And actually today, after I'm finished with this, I'm going to be hard at work on Kraken Hunters, which is the third and final book in this trilogy. Unless I decide to make it more than a trilogy, but chance right now I have it set as at trilogy. So we'll see where that goes. So anyway, here is an excerpt from Bigfoot Hunters, and this takes place I'd say relatively early in the book. We have a bunch of there's the prologue, which kind of sets the stage, and then we have a couple chapters where the main characters, we get to know them a little bit, where they're going, all that stuff. And here is pretty much where the action kind of picks up. Our main cast is in the woods, having a good time, and well, something has just scared the crap out of them, and they're kind of making a run for it. Danny checked the GPS again. They were headed in the right direction. As they fled from the source of whatever it had been, Harrison dropped back to make sure there were no stragglers. Danny wanted to protest, but her brother was more than capable. Thus she was surprised when he caught up to her again. "How are we doing?" he asked, with obvious false calm. "Maybe another quarter of a mile. Why?" "You don't want to know," he answered in a low voice she could barely hear. He was right. She really didn't want to know. Unfortunately, she was long past that state of blissful ignorance. Whatever they were running from was coming after them. How bad? "It's making a lot of noise, but doesn't seem to be gaining on us. Yet." As if in response to his statement, another roar split the air behind them. It sounded hundreds of yards away, but if it had snuck up on them once, it was probably capable of doing so again. "Don't let anyone run off," she said. He nodded and again fell back, but he needn't have bothered. After that last cry, the rest of the group were crowded so close that Danny could have practically piggybacked them all had she been strong enough. Something was not right. He stopped and sniffed the air. For just a moment the breeze had stilled, and he thought he had smelled another scent from behind. Had one of the two-legged things broken off from its clan and tried to flee? They knew he was coming. Oops, skipped ahead there. He sniffed again. The scent was gone. Whatever it had been faint, just barely there. Now that the breeze started up again, he could once again smell the two-legged things he was pursuing. He could smell their bodies, but best of all, he could smell their fear. They knew he was coming. They knew that they were being hunted. If he could have understood the concept of a smile, he might have allowed himself one at that thought. As it was, he screamed again and once more began to stalk his prey. "We are so screwed." "You got that right, brother," Greg replied to Wildfeather as they fled. Shouldn't we be trying to head out of the woods, not deeper into them?" Paula wheezed. She sounded out of breath, but at least the effort was keeping her from settling into full-blown panic, Danny noted. If they stopped, she was sure that would change. "The cars are back in that direction," Danny replied, "and there's 50 miles of forest in every other direction. Trust me, this is our best bet." "I hope," she thought. She was trying to keep a positive attitude. Wildfeather had already lost it, and Allison was keeping unusually quiet. If either she or Harrison freaked out now, that would be it. The rest would scatter like doves. Fortunately, her big brother seemed to be doing his part. The least she could do was follow suit. Just another 100 yards, she said, before adding another silent "I hope." She quickly checked her GPS again and trudged onward. Near the back of their close-knit group, Harrison was making sure he didn't lose anyone. It was one hell of an effort on his part. Every instinct he had was telling him to cut loose and make a run for it. Inside of his head, the old hunting joke that ended with, "I don't need to run faster than the bear, I just need to run faster than you," kept replaying itself. Suddenly it didn't seem so funny. Still, he couldn't live with himself if something happened to one of his friends because of his selfishness. He'd been raised better than that. "How are you holding up?" he asked Rob, who had begun to fall back a bit. Not good," his friend stammered. "You might have to drag me the rest of the way." "Don't worry, I would," Harrison reassured him before looking back over his shoulder. He could still hear it coming, whatever it was. It wasn't making any attempts at stealth anymore. It also didn't appear to be catching up to them yet. It was the yet part that worried him, though. Harrison wasn't a betting man, but if he had been, he would have put money on it being able to overtake them any time it damn well pleased. "What the hell is it?" Paula asked, lagging but still doing better than Rob. "Has to be a grizzly," answered Harrison. Rob coughed. "I didn't think there were any around these parts." "Neither did I. But have you got a better answer?" "I might," Rob said with a small tired grin. "Don't start that shit," Harrison growled. "Everyone is freaked out enough as it is." Rob, for his part, decided to follow that advice and concentrate on running instead of talking. Danny wasn't a particularly religious girl. However, as they entered a clearing, she could have gladly dropped to her knees and thanked any of a dozen different deities. Her friend's coordinates had been faithful after all. At the far end of the clearing, partially overgrown but still standing, was the old ranger station she had been seeking. It was a small, one-story structure. Danny was once again reminded of Little House on the Prairie she spied it, although the forest was about as far from a prairie as you could get. It appeared to be an old log cabin. It had seen better days, but still looked pretty damn solid in her eyes. "There!" She pointed. The rest of the group followed her, outstretched hand, and saw it too. A small chorus of cheers arose behind her. That was good. She was pretty sure at least a few members of the group were about done for. This would hopefully give them enough of a morale boost to get inside and bar the entrance with whatever the hell they could get their hands on. Oh crap, what if the doors are locked? Why would they be, she asked herself. This place hadn't been used in years from the look of it. Why lock up an abandoned structure? It's not like anyone had to worry about looters out here. "Are you just going to stand there gawking?" Paula asked from behind, her startling Danny out of her thoughts. She had a point. Getting torn to pieces in sight of their potential salvation, all because she was busy worrying about whether or not the doors were locked, wouldn't be a particularly grand way to go. She found the energy for one last quick sprint. As she started running, she heard the others following her lead. Within the space of seconds, she made it to the dilapidated front porch and tried the door. It didn't budge. Oh God, it's locked, a voice inside her head screamed. For one small moment, Danny felt panic welling up. It threatened to bubble over until the rational part of her mind realized that the knob had turned when she tried it. Realization hit and she put her shoulder into the door. "Help me, it's stuck," she pleaded as her friends caught up to her. Harrison dragged Greg up to the door with him and gently pushed his sister out of the way. A couple of good shoves by the muscular young men, and the swollen door began to groan open an inch at a time. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the opening was wide enough to allow access. "Ladies first," Greg wheezed in a bad attempt at humor. He stepped aside and gestured toward the entrance. The others had just started to move when another ungodly scream shattered the silence around them. As one, the group turned back in the direction whence they had just come. They watched in stunned horror as the creature stepped from the tree line. For a few seconds, silence once more descended. Then Rob asked Harrison, So can I start that shit now?" And there you have it, a small sampling from Bigfoot Hunters. As I said, book 1 in my Tales of the Crypto Hunter series. It's a fun. I think it's a fun series because kind of like it adds horror, but it also kind of like it's not pure horror victim. It's basically horror and victims who can fight back but are still kind of overwhelmed. So it adds a good deal of action in the whole mix, or at least I think it does. So anyway, that is Bigfoot Hunters. One of many books in which Bigfoot pays a part because I dig me some Sasquatch. And, well, hopefully I will return again really soon to give you another chapter reading. I hope you enjoy these, and I hope they give you a little taste of things to come in my writing. And, I thank you for listening.